Hello, my name's Matthew Jurgis, and welcome to Move to Improve podcast. Today with me we have Dr. Greg Uchaz and our special guest today, Rob Walker, the author of The New Yoga, from Cult and Dogma to Science and Sanity. He is also the president of the Alberta Yoga College. How are you today?
I'm well, very well. Glad to be here. Glad to be with you both.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here, man. I'm glad that we finally getting a chance to sit down and
Yes.
kind of just talk about stuff. And I really wanted to share your message, with the new yoga. So we should just jump right into it. So
Okay.
I was just trying to remember how we met in the first place, and I remember it was Wendy Peterson.
Yeah.
Right?
Wendy Peterson, she went through my teacher training. She's a remarkable woman. She's a senior pilot with WestJet.
Yeah.
And she talked very highly of proactive health, and particularly you, Greg, and encouraged me to come and see you. So in order to keep her happy, as it were, I came to see you, and I was instantly converted to her opinion. And I've been coming to see you and your colleague Melissa for probably the last 6 months. And we've now established a great relationship between the Alberta Yoga College and Proactive Health. And as you've said a number of times, Greg, our values align very well, which is why you and your staff are encouraged to support the yoga studio, the Alberta Yoga College, and why we send our clients to you for their functional assessment.
Well, he pretty much covered it there, Dr. Jurgis. So we're done for today.
Sure did. Let's close it down.
Yeah, so I remember you coming in. Two things. I remember going through some pretty in-depth postural analysis and functional movement analysis with you, because you had a heightened sense of understanding of body movement and function and what's proper and what's not. So we actually took it all the way from looking at your shoe wear pattern all the way up through, looking at your posture, your shoulder position, neck, head, all that stuff. And then you gave me your book, right?
Yes.
The New Yoga. And so I read it.
Yes.
I didn't love the history of yoga because, all these guys have extremely long names and whatnot. But
Yes.
no, it was really good. And then you get to your approach to yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for me, refreshing from the standpoint of you align with us, right? Because I would say that, Dr. Jurgis, you know this too, like maybe 90% of the practitioners you go to, whether it's massage, physio, chiro, whatever, they go with low back pain, they're going to treat their low back pain, right?
Yes.
And as soon as they feel better, how are you feeling? The first question is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you doing? And as soon as they feel better, they're released from care. That's not what we do here, right? Because something like low back pain is rarely a primary entity, right? It's rarely by itself the problem, unless there's some sort of catastrophic event, but usually it's a breakdown because there's some sort of imbalance going on. You're not moving properly, right? You're either loading the back too much because you're moving improperly, or there's a muscle imbalance, or one side of the body is, different than the other. You're asymmetrical, so you load that back. So our job as chiropractors with Proactive is to find the underlying mechanical breakdown, and let's fix that, right? Whether that's a treatment thing, whether or not that's getting rid of aggravating factors or minimizing aggravating factors, whether it's sleep, position, or your bed, or your posture, or ergonomics, or sports mechanics, etc. And then the last piece is that exercise thing, like looking at Melissa and looking at movement pattern impairment and how, I'm getting all techie here, but so our thing was we want to get at that piece. We want to get at the movement breakdown piece and fix that, because then you're not only just fixing the back pain, but you're fixing it permanently, right? Because you're getting rid of the underlying cause. And to read your book, it aligns exactly with what we do, right? Because I got in there. It's like yoga is not about flexibility. And I just had this aha moment. It's like, oh my God, like like that's all, we deal with that a lot, right? Yeah. So chime in, absolutely.
Yeah. Can I just take a moment to say what it is about the book and my approach to yoga that aligns with your business?
Yeah.
So I'll just quickly summarize what the book is about. So about 6 years ago, I had this enlightenment moment when I started to realize that what we were doing in yoga was misleading, if not damaging, to people's not only to people's bodies but to people's expectations about what yoga was going to do for them. And let me just start with the New York Times article in 2012, which was headlined "How Yoga Can Wreck Your Body." Well, that was alarming, but it really sent up a warning message that we needed to rethink what we were doing in yoga. And about 5 years ago, I realized that the whole message of yoga had been about flexibility. And I wondered, how did we get to this how did we get to this place? So my book traces, in the first half of the book, it traces how we got from this historic place of yoga where in India it was never about anything to do with flexibility or even physical activity. It was to do with meditation and breathing exercises. So in the 1930s, India was going through a transformation in preparation for its hoped for independence. And at that time, people were fascinated by physical activity and getting better. And what did they have that was unique, which is yoga? And so they started to develop an approach of yoga which was about physical health, and for the first time ever. And cutting a long story short, there was a particular demand on yoga to be very active, very flexible, and very much like the kinds of yoga that you see on Instagram with young women putting their foot behind their head and doing all sorts of very Cirque du Soleil type activities. This is not where yoga should be going.
It's just like modeling, really. It's just not reality.
It's showmanship.
It was showmanship. That's right.
That's great. Yeah.
And so I started to outline the things that I think yoga should be about, other than flexibility. So mobility, strength, endurance, mindfulness, breath, pain management, and some other things as well.
Balance,
proprioception, interoception. And so I've set out a new template, really, for what yoga should be about. And like you, Greg, I'm continually interested in new research. And we are constantly upgrading our knowledge based on biomechanics. And biomechanics is a relatively new field. And so we tend to look at yoga partly through the lens of biomechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love that. Because, for us too, I've, preached the idea that stretching in and of itself is overrated.
Absolutely.
And my, Dr. Jurgis and my view of it comes from the world of sport and physical activity, right? And having people say, well, I spent 20 minutes stretching and I still got injured, right? And the evidence just shows that, stretching in no way prepares the human body to perform a physical endeavor, right? In no way is it a preparatory mechanism, does not reduce injury rates, does not enhance performance. In fact, may reduce performance because it will increase range of movement and it does have an analgesic effect. But if you have the necessary range of movement to perform the sports skills, and you have normative ranges too, right? Like what everybody should have, some sort of normative degree of motion. Anything beyond that requires the body has to stabilize that increased mobility before propulsion, right?
Yes.
So it can actually be detrimental, right? So when I heard you saying, listen, this isn't about stretching, this is about functional capacity and all the various facets of that, it was good, it was refreshing. So that kind of started our back and forth discussions and whatnot.
Yeah, and since I've been coming to see you over the last 6 months, our interchange, our discussions, our conversation has really reinforced that. And I've been able to share with you some things that I knew. There's not much I know in that world that you don't know more than me, but there's been this fruitful discourse on this subject.
No, it's been a good exchange.
And you've even brought your clients, you brought your staff to my studio to have a class with them.
Yes, and I got truly embarrassed when we were there. He says, "Oh, you're not inflexible. You just have really short arms." So ever since then, now everybody hears that.
I'll never look at you the same, Greg.
One of the things that impressed me was the fact that you brought your staff to my studio for a class, which was more of a kind of an introductory workshop. And Greg, this is humorous, but it's also true. You need to come and do yoga on a regular basis because despite your amazing skills, you must be the top chiropractor in
this
Alberta,
room,
if not
second best in this room.
You're certainly an impressive chiropractor, but I think you could also develop more proprioceptive skills.
I'm going to name this podcast The Roast of Dr. Greg. Let's just focus on that.
No, you know what? The session was actually really good. What impressed me, and so I'm going to start advocating for you and you're in Alberta Yoga College now. What impressed me was your ability to discern and to detect individual differences between all of us and to apply different methods to each person based on that body habitus and based on that flexibility piece and based on that functional capacity piece. That's what got me, because I've been to lots of different yogas, and they're gonna sit on your back to get you in that position, or they're gonna say just push harder, you should feel it, instead of maybe you should fold the blanket underneath your butt so that you can sit up.
Anterior tilt.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yes, so you can anterior tilt, so you can maintain a neutral spine position, or you use the blocks if you can't go down all the way, so you can get there, so you can maintain. That impressed me, actually.
Yeah.
So the level of knowledge of what you're getting out there to your new instructors and the type of yoga you're teaching, in my view, is the wave of the future. Right?
I use the term in my teacher training, and I've trained more people in Calgary than anybody else as yoga teachers. I use the term seeing, and it's always in quotes, implying that it's used in a special sense. And it's exactly what you described. It's you stand in front of a yoga class, and the misalignments and the need for correction, after a while, they completely jump out at you. So I can see somebody in the back row, I can see somebody on Zoom, and I can say, you need to turn your back foot in more. You need to press through the outer edge of your back foot. Don't clench your toes. Don't frown. Don't do this hip movement with your jaw. Yeah. So I've developed a skill over the years, like your skills, but my skill is to see in a class people that need help, but not jump on them or tell them to go harder, but just to really individualize the
you
feedback.
get unconsciously competent, right? You're able to just see it and act on it.
Yeah. It's very similar to what we do, obviously, and looking at that functional movement and be able to disseminate between people's individual differences. And you do accommodate for individuals in your class, and it's,
I have a phrase that I invented, which I think is really good to cover this. It's called proprioceptive empathy. So when I'm seeing somebody, I think I can tell what would make them feel more comfortable or more effective. Proprioceptive empathy.
You got somebody's phone going off in our podcast today.
rude.
Yeah.
We're not going to say whose it was. But it wasn't mine.
Or mine.
And it's interesting. You can switch off the sound, but you can't switch off the vibration.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, so it's good. So I'm glad. So basically, what we've kind of established with you is that we've offered as a partner of Proactive and contractual agreement to do functional movement exams on your clients, so we can get a sense of where their deficiencies lie, and then help them with that, right? And then and you're offering Proactive 2 complimentary sessions, to get them introduced to Alberta Yoga. So it really works well for us, because as you know, we take a multifaceted, multidisciplinary, multimodal approach to patient care, right? So of all the different treatment methods we employ, whether it's myofascial work or ART or Graston or other types of soft tissue work, cross-fibering, and then we're looking at mobility issues in the joint, whether we're mobilizing or tractioning or adjusting or whatever that is. Then we're dealing with all of their aggravating factors. I mean, this is a big story. And then we're sending them to Melissa, and she's using red cord, and we're looking at the functional impairments, and we're drilling down into specific which sequences are firing right, and we get them to a point where there's a level of competency there, and we're getting that permanent resolution. Okay, now what? So now where do they go? Do we just tell them go back into life? Well, you're helping us now with that stepping stone, right? Of getting them back into regular life, but now enhancing their functional capacity, right? Enhancing their proprioceptive control, their interoception, the proprioception and coordination, their core control, their all these different things, right? So it's good. It's a nice fit, and I'm glad I read the book, and I'm glad we've had all these discussions.
Since we formed our partnership, I have sent a number of people to get a functional assessment with you, and the feedback is phenomenal. They come and they say, I'm learning things about my body and about misfunctioning, which I had no idea about. That was true of me. When I came to see you, I'm fairly proprioceptively aware, and yet you gave me some feedback that I'd never heard before, because you have an incredible proprioceptive empathy as well.
Dr. Georges, look at this love fest we've got going on, eh? Between Alberta Yoga College and Pro.
Just bumping each other's tires.
And
that's right.
This is motivated by genuine appreciation.
I think part of it is this. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you all the time here, but chiropractic is kind of going through a transformation, right? From the old subluxation based to then we're now becoming evidence-based and using the high velocity, low amplitude thrust, the adjustment to help people. We know that's a great modality to now we're starting to look at functional movement. Now you're seeing all these different courses come out about this and analyzing people for, the SFMAs of the world and all these different programs. And we're looking at how a body moves and trying to restore function. So we're going through this transformation, this evolution. There's still that very holistic piece, and there's still those traditional chiropractors out there, but there's a huge faction going more towards, what we're doing here. You're going through the same thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You could almost substitute the word yoga for chiropractic in your discussion.
Yeah.
And I think this is partly because movement sciences is a new science, really.
It is.
Because we've now got tools that we can use to produce evidence-based. So I'm telling people that, when you're doing pranayama, which sounds like a very obscure traditional Indian breathwork technique, I can now tell them that there are MRI studies and other studies of the brain that show the specific benefits of doing certain kinds of breathwork. So it's no longer woo-woo. It's no longer some weird thing that you have to take on trust. There's actually evidence for it, and it's true throughout movement sciences.
Yeah.
I think
and neurological sciences.
One of the best things about having this kind of partnership with the yoga, especially new yoga, is the people that come from your college and what you guys do is body awareness. And above all, like what I'm explaining to them kind of makes intuitive sense to them already. And they can take that information, maybe your left glute's not firing or right hip flex or whatever. And it kind of immediately makes sense when you're doing yoga because there's so much body awareness and it just partners so well that it makes intuitive sense as soon as you kind of clarify it and break it down for people in yoga especially.
Yeah.
So the new yoga, From Cult and Dogma to Science and Sanity by Rob Walker. Where can people get this book?
Well, they can buy it directly from our studio, which is on Crowchild and Glenmore.
Alberta Yoga College.
Yes, the Alberta Yoga College. Or they can buy it on Amazon or all the usual outlets. But I believe Barnes & Noble in the States and Indigo and Chapters in Canada. Amazon, whatever you think about Amazon, it's the fastest way to get a copy of the book.
Yeah.
And, people also like to get the Kindle version as well. Mm-hmm. There's certain advantages to having a Kindle online version. Yeah.
Gotcha. The new yoga, Rob Walker. And so I would recommend anybody to go to Alberta Yoga College. I really, really, really like the way you guys approach yoga. It fits, and it's sort of the new generation of what's happening with it, and in our world, the right direction. So What is it? www.albertayogacollege.ca?
.com. AlbertaYogaCollege.com. Yeah.
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 Get everybody to go check it out, and yeah.
Maybe I could just say another couple of words, because we are actually pretty well unique in any. I could say unique in Canada, maybe unique in North America, because we are not a yoga studio or a chain of yoga studios that does teacher training on the side. I ran a yoga studio like that for 10 years, and then I decided that the focus had to change for me. So the Alberta Yoga College is primarily a college focusing on yoga teacher training. However, we also run daily yoga classes, which I think are taught on a higher level based on our conversation so far in this podcast. But we are unique in that way. Almost every other program I know for teacher training is really an add-on to a yoga studio, whereas we are primarily for yoga teacher training.
Nice. Yeah, great point. Well, I mean, that's how we met, right? Through
Yes.
Wendy, right? Because she
Yes.
went through your
Yeah.
teacher training, and she loved it. It was.
And just so not to deter your clients, we do value and prioritize the yoga public classes as well. But like Wendy, people often do yoga teacher training, not because they necessarily want to be a yoga teacher, but because they want to have a deeper knowledge and understanding of the kinds of things that you and I are talking about now.
Yeah. I like it. So how long is the teacher training?
The teacher training is 3 months, and again, this is a unique feature. We run 3 trainings a year. So if you've missed us, like the training that started in September the 15th, we have another training starting January the 12th, and then there'll be another one at the beginning of April. Our trainings are hybrid, so that you could as easily be in, as some people are in our present program. You could be in Ontario, you could be in Edmonton, or could be in Lethbridge.
So you do it virtually as well.
We do it virtually as well, and the people that are taking it virtually tell us that they're as equally happy as the people who are coming in person.
Yeah, nice. So if it's 3 months, how intensive is the training in that 3 months?
Well, thank you for asking that.
Well, you're welcome.
I have. Because I'd done teacher training for 10 years before I started the college, I'd figured out when people can best manage it. So we do it Thursday evening, Friday evening, and Saturday afternoon. So people working a normal shift, a normal day's work, can fit it into their schedule. And because we have video on demand, if they miss a module, they pick it up by watching the video on recorded video a day or 2 later. Yeah.
Nice. Sounds pretty accommodating.
Yeah, we try to be as flexible in the metaphorical sense
my gosh.
as possible.
He just really rolled his eyes at that too.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I'm enjoying our continuing relationship, and I'm just happy to do anything I can to encourage people to come to Proactive Health, because I've benefited so much from it.
Yeah, and likewise for us, because I truly believe that in order to kind of appreciate the full benefits of what we're doing, yoga is probably the best activity you can do.
And I just have to jump in there, because it's not any yoga.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's the new
Greg's skepticism for yoga was expressed in the first few minutes. So yoga will benefit you, but it's really the new yoga that's going to benefit you, or yoga taught in alignment with what I call the new yoga.
Yes, very cutting edge. No, but you definitely have distinguished yourself from the pack, and we can see that, and that's why you're here today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Mr. Walker.
All right, thank you, and thanks to all our listeners. We appreciate all the support. Take care.